Graphing linear inequalities using your graphing calculator. So first things first, you have to have it as a y equals. So if it's not written as in y equals form or y less than, y greater than form, you have to isolate for the y. Then when you put that in, you have to use the symbol keys. So what they mean by the symbol keys is, let's try this one again. If I go into my y equals, so right now I have a quadratic in place that if I graph looks like this. So I'm just going to adjust my window setting quickly so that it goes down farther. Okay. So what I can do is I can go over to the far left where that line is, and when I press enter, first of all the line gets thicker, and then I get an arrow up, which means greater than, and then I can get an arrow down, which means less than. So let's say I used the less than one and I pressed graph. This is what ends up happening, is it just shades the region for me. This is a quadratic. Our linears will look different. So in the example that it walks you through, we've got the equation y minus x, or sorry, x minus y is greater than 3. So if we isolate, what I would do is I would have moved the y to the other side, which would have made my y positive. But then when I read this, I could rewrite it as y is less than, rather than trying to remember to flip the inequality. So I put this into the equation, y equals, so clear whatever you have for y1, and you're going to type in x minus 3. And then if I went to a zoom standard, there's what my line looks like. And then if I want to make it as a less than means the arrow points down. Press graph. And then it shades it in. The graph will not distinguish between a solid line and a broken line. You have to do that on your drawing. Okay? It can only just draw the line and shade the appropriate region. So if we go on to the next page, it says, on your own, sketch the solution region to the inequality with a broken boundary line to represent less than. So this is what you would have put on your page given that computer screen. You would have shown this as being a dotted line and shading the region below. Okay? And quadratics are the same way. So if we look at the two examples that are here on the page, we've got this first one, 2x plus 3y minus 12 is less than 0. So I want to isolate for y, so I move the x and the 12 over, and I get a negative 2x plus 12. Then I divide everything by 3, and I get y is less than negative 2/3 x plus 4. So that's what I would put into the graphing calculator. So y equals, clear that up, bracket, negative 2/3, bracket x plus 4. And then the line that I need, this is less than, so this is an arrow down. So I press enter till I get the arrow down, and then I graph. So if I was to sketch this, this goes through the point of 4, and the other intercept is at 6. So I probably want to find what my two intercepts are if I can, so I can label them. What kind of a line would I use to join these 2 points? A dotted line, because it's not equal to. And then I shade everything below. And then I should label the line as 2x plus 3y minus 12 is less than 0. Okay. If I look at B, what I'll start off with is I'll clear my y1 and we're going to type in 2x squared minus x minus 15. And then if I just graph that just to see whether or not my window settings are correct, I'm missing this part of the graph, so I want to adjust my window settings so it goes down further. So I'm going to let it be a minus 20. And now I can see more of the graph. The next thing that I'd want to do is I'd want to figure out what these 3 points are. So my y-intercept is when x equals 0. So when x equals 0, I'm left with a negative 15. And then my zeros, well, this 0 here looks like it's a 3, and this one almost looks like it's halfway in between. So what I could do is if I went to, oh, darn it. Okay, so if I went to my table set, and if I went to ask instead, and then went to my table, if I typed in 3, I get a 0. And if I typed in negative 2.5, I also get 0. So rather than going through all the work of left bound, right bound, I could use my table feature to help me find the zeros as well. And then I want to go back through and put it back onto auto. So now I can sketch those points. I have a negative 15, a positive 3, and a negative 2.5. And I don't think it's the minimum point is a little bit further than that. So it kind of looks something like that. And this would be a solid line because it is equal to. So my line here would still be solid. And now that I have that quadratic drawn, then I can go back and make this a greater than, so that means the arrow points up. Press graph again, and the part that gets shaded is the part in between. So I would shade this part of the graph. And that is using your graphing calculator to graph inequalities. So your questions are questions 1 and 2.